by Dr. Vishnu Bhatt, Director Medical Research, Dr. Deepthi Shastri Madam, Deputy Dean, Salem, Tamil Nadu, Dr. Kadambari, Professor of Surgery, Jippar, Puducherry, and Dr. Sanjay Bedi, CEO, MU, India. And out of that, 11 papers were selected for award paper presentation. Now we will start the award paper presentation. I call upon the chairpersons for this session to judge the award papers. Dr. Deepthi Shastri, Deputy Dean, Professor of Anatomy, Vinayaka Missions, Kribananda Variyar Medical College and Hospitals, Salem, Tamil Nadu. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. D. Kadambari, Professor of Surgery, Jippar, Puducherry. And Dr. Sanjay Bedi, CEO, MU, India. So the free papers were all screened by the rigorous screening process, and based on the relevance and creativity and the innovations accommodated in the free papers, the 11 papers which have been selected for award paper sessions will be presented now. To present, there are certain rules which are looked brief for this session. We have, for each paper, we will be giving around 7 minutes for presentation. The first 5 minutes, after which there will be a single bell, and then they will be having 2 minutes for the time for them to fasten up. And then at 7th minute, the mic goes off, and after that, 3 minutes will be given for presentation, for the discussion of the paper. The forum will be open, and only the judges are allowed to ask the questions for the session, as it is an award paper session. And after that, the next presenter will come and present. So that's the procedure for this entire award paper session. And the timer will be running on the screen, and after the last, maybe after 5 minutes, we'll be showing you this placard, the 2 minutes more. After 7 minutes, maybe we'll show you the 7 minutes time over, right? Right. So we'll call the first presenter for today, Dr. Annamalai, Medical Consultant, Department of Department of Ophthalmology, Aravind Eye Hospital, Postgraduate Institute. Sir is presenting a paper on innovations in teaching the 2K generation optimally using social media and flipping classroom. So your time starts now.
So good evening. To give an overview, so our institute was started in 1976 as an 11-bedded hospital, and now has around 7 tertiary and secondary centers and over 100 primary eye care centers. And we tend to do around 16,000 outpatient examinations every single day and 1,700 surgeries. So our institute has been involved in teaching and training for a long time, and we have been teaching residents, fellows, and external trainees. So we used to do the wet lab and simulations, but during the pandemic it was significantly disrupted. So we came up with a lot of innovative solutions to improve our training program, and that's what we are going to discuss today in one of these 3 headings. So firstly, we'll look at how the surgical training went on. So during the initial part of the surgical training, there is the trainer and the trainee in the operating room, and around 10 cases they finish off their initial part of the training. And after that, we do the step-up training. So like every 10th case, we do the step-up training where there is a live surgical assessment. And these are the instruments that is required to do the live surgical training. So here the second instrument would be the GoPro camera. So it is attached to the power bank, and then we have the adapter which is connecting to the microscope. We also need the iPad, which is mainly to connect to the social media. So I'll describe how it works. Firstly, we see that so we see the attachment there, and with that attachment we connect the GoPro camera. And once the camera is connected, the final result is whatever image is being captured by the microscope will be projected onto the screen there on the GoPro camera. It also has an inbuilt SD card which can record it locally. The other thing that we do is live streaming. So for that, we need to connect it to the GoPro app on the iPad. So here we require 2 things. One is the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. Bluetooth is to connect the device with the iPad, and the Wi-Fi is to connect the iPad with that of the social media. So now once we have to move further. So once we connect Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so we'll be able to see whatever is there under the microscope onto our social media pages. So we need to set up live, and this will ask the various social media platforms that we want to share. So we generally share it in Facebook. Why? Because here we can do a private sharing. So that is, we'll share only to our friends and not to the general public. So friends are nobody but the doctors who are present in our institute. So once live stream is switched on, this a notification comes on our mobile phones that there is a live stream going on, and whoever is free can watch these videos on their mobile phones. So whenever there is some small detail which is being missed by the resident, or there is a thing which can be done better, there can be comments like this by the senior consultants, and these are shown to the operating surgeon, and the operating surgeon can do corrective measures or can give an oral comment to those who are giving these comments. So this is with regards to the surgical training. And then we have the classroom discussion. So what we did was we tried a sort of flipped classroom model where the initial reading material is given, and after that we do the pre-class evaluation. Class goes on as usual, but in the form of discussion, questioning and answering, and then we do the post-class evaluation. So reading material, we should be, it's important to note that it's not a very extensive reading material, but it should be a very short reading material so that they read and come. And then we do the pre-class evaluation, and nothing but Google Forms with multiple questions like these. So here there were 23 respondents, and we see that the average scores were around 4 or 5. So that's less than 50%. We also know in which areas they are lacking. For example, a few questions they have answered well, whereas a few questions sort of nobody has answered it right. So during the class we can give special attention to these topics so the time will be used appropriately. And post class we see there has been a significant improvement in the answering. So this helps us transform away from being just lecturers to being facilitators. So next we'll move on to our social media post. So generally we have 12 residents every year, and there are 6 working days. So what we did was we allot 2 residents per working day. So for example, there will be 2 residents responsible for a Monday, and they'll be posting on quizzes on every Monday. Say they'll be doing this for the next 52 weeks till the next batch joins. So these quiz questions will be, it can be history based or it can be clinical scenario based. So these are the various innovative posts that they have put. So Tuesdays it will be based on innovations, Wednesdays it is to create social awareness, Thursdays it's a throwback Thursday, that is they talk about the institution's heritage and what are the various events that have happened in the course of the years. Friday is a Foresight Friday where they describe the environmental friendly practices that we have followed in our institute, and Saturday it's a surgical Saturday. So what we do is we share surgical videos, and senior consultants gives certain tips to handle some tricky situations, and all these videos are made by our residents themselves. So in some of the videos, audio is not coming.
Pandemic, a new lethal infection has
So
risen
they give
as
their
its
own
aftermath.
voiceovers.
Black fungus or mucormycosis,
For
a
few
very
of our
rare
videos,
fungal
we
disease,
have got
often seen
they
in
have
immunocompromised
received
patients,
awards in various
is on
national
an
and
alarming
international
rise among the
conferences as
COVID-recovered
well.
patients.
And all these videos are available in our YouTube channel. Apart from that, there are videos also for mid-level ophthalmic personnel and also for the general public to understand about this awareness issues. And this is one popular series among ophthalmologists where they talk about each and every step of cataract surgery. And most of these posts are also available on our Instagram post. So what are the benefits for the trainees? They undergo a holistic training, not just a routine clinical examination. They also tend to see one post every day. So they tend to see a lot of clinical scenarios. They are able to fine-tune their surgical skills. They understand research better, and they're able to think out of the box and come with innovative solutions. And finally, they also learn video editing skills, which we believe is very much required for the new generation. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now the chairpersons can.
Problems you faced while implementing the solution?
Main problem during the initial parts, it was during the COVID times. All the residents had a lot of time in their hands. We are able to utilize their time appropriately. But now with the situation returning back to normal, it's a bit difficult to motivate them to do these activities in addition to their clinical skills. But once, it's only tough for the first 1 or 2 weeks. Once they get a hold of it, they're very happy to do this, and once they get the rewards in the form of awards in various national and international conferences, they are more than happy to do more and more.
Have you created a repository of these cases?
Yes sir, everything is available in YouTube and Facebook, in our social media accounts. It's still available, anybody can watch. Only the live surgical streaming, it's available only for our internal consultants. All the other things are available for everybody.
Can I ask? Congratulations, you have listed quite a few innovations. Since you're presenting this as a research paper, how did you actually evaluate the outcomes of your intervention?
Outcomes in the sense like...
you have listed lots of benefits, so how did you list those benefits, on what basis?
We mainly got the feedback from the peers. So generally those who finished...
that was not listed in your presentation.
Yeah. So peers who have finished a long time back, they said these were the... though we do good surgeries, we are able to handle good, we are able to see, identify clinical scenarios very easily. They found a few other things like these were lacking among them, the management skills and how to handle this video editing, all those things they didn't understand. So now these new residents, they are more than happy to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Annamalai. Now we call upon the next presenter, Dr. Priyanka Bhatkulkar, Associate Professor, Department of Biochemistry, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Medical College, Jabalpur, MP. She is presenting a paper on standardized patient as an effective tool for early clinical exposure for first year MBBS students. Ma'am, your time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is rather a privilege to share my study here on this prestigious platform. My study is developing a standardized patient as an effective tool for early clinical exposure for first year MBBS student. As it is the standardized patient is someone who enacts, a layman who enacts as a patient under the guidelines. The need for it, we found that since there are so many number of students every year in the colleges, and the patient stay in the hospital has reduced, and we do not have that much of range of patient to give to the student, to expose to the student. So based on that rationale, and moreover there is so much of limited documentation regarding standardized patient. So that was the need of the study. So based on that, the aim was to evaluate the effectiveness of standardized patient as a tool of early clinical exposure in first year MBBS student in subject of biochemistry. First of all, being a government medical institutes, the students as well as faculty was not much aware to the concept of standardized patient. So our first objective was to sensitize the faculty and student to the concept of standardized patient, to compare the outcome of the assessment through early clinical exposure to the standardized patient that compared to the real patient in terms of cognitive psychometer and effective domain, and to obtain the perspective of student for the standardized patient, how they feel about it. So it was a prospective interventional study during 6 months of duration, and the first year batch of MBBS 2021 was included. We planned 2 sessions of ECE, one was for diabetes mellitus and one was for myocardial infarction. So on the first day, those students were absent, those we excluded them from the study. So the plan was first to brief all the students. Then we had a staff member who was enrolled as a standardized patient after his consent. We planned 2 sessions of early clinical exposure. For that 3-hour session we divide into 1 hour didactic lecture And after that, we split the students into half, odd number and even number. Odd went for real patient and even went for a standardized patient. And they had 1.5 hours to interact with the patient. And after that, for 30 minutes, we took assessment and a feedback, perception of the students. So to give a glimpse, this was the interaction, this was a lecture, and this is the interaction of students in small groups to the standardized patient. For data collective tools, for close-ended questions, 5-point Likert scale, which was, and for open-ended, we used themes and categories, and all the questionnaire were validated by the MU member. The result we got that we actually do not, the score of the assessment for both the sessions, MI and diabetes mellitus, there was no significant difference in the assessment score of the student, those exposed to the standardized patient as compared to the real patient. So there was no significant difference. These were the feedback questions which were asked, and we got a good reply actually. This 50% or around 80% students strongly agreed that they can improve the knowledge of basic subject through standardized patient. They can develop critical thinking towards the probable diagnosis. They could retain the knowledge which was taught in the lecture through standardized patient, and especially in the biochemistry where they find very difficult to actually take interest in the class. So they developed interest, they started and they actually wanted more sessions in which we should give standardized patient. They asked us to take more sessions. So it was a very overwhelming response we got. This was their perception, which was categorized in the themes, that around 78% of students actually love the part that where they actually interact with the standardized patient. Few of them, very few of them actually like the theory class, and few of them like the investigation report parts which we gave them. This was again the open-ended questions were asked, which was categorized. 25% found it excellent, 26% found it overall a great experience to learn biochemistry. Then 15% thought it was very interesting, well organized. Few of them found it that it could have been better in terms of infrastructure or grouping. So through this, what we achieved, we gave them a clinical investigation part, which is very difficult for clinical biochemists to understand the lab reports. Then in the very first year of MBBS, we gave them introduction to the communication with the patient, critical thinking, hidden curricula like empathy, professionalism. They also learned to be an independent learner. They took interest in the subject of biochemistry, and they actively participated in the learning process. The advantage of standardized patient is once it is trained, the student can repeatedly try and repeatedly go for history taking, and these skills can be developed. We give them real life scenario, a real patient safety and privacy can be maintained, and the risk of legal issue which we face for the real patient, that can be avoided. So the take home message is, standardized patients are not going to replace the real patients, but definitely they can help in transition to the real patient. So the faculty time is also reduced. So I would like to acknowledge my institute, my head of the department, to help me to do this study, and my mentors and my guides who are always there, and all faculty members and the staff who helped me in this study. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now it's over to the chairpersons.
Thank you. It's a good study. Dr. Nachiket in the morning has mentioned that you need to align objectives, teaching learning methods and assessment. So do you want to have standardized patients for assessment of students as well? Otherwise the teaching learning method would not be effective, right? Unless you align it with assessment. Do you have any assessment? No, for university exams or formative assessment.
Actually, those topics we included in the first PCT which we took, we included, and the students performed.
Ma'am, kindly speak into the mic.
Mic.
We included these topics in the first PCT which we took, because this happened in first 6 months also, diabetes and MI, but the students actually did really good in these, especially these topics. So that way we got the response.
Okay, thank you.
A tool to enhance faculty clinical teaching skills. Introduction. Clinical skill training is a complex activity requiring competent teachers to make it understandable by the students across all the domains. As clinical skill training and certification is an integral part of competency-based medical education, deliberate faculty development training in this scope is of paramount importance. In traditional teaching methods, we never had the chance to improve ourselves by feedback. So aim of this study is to analyze AST as a tool to assess and improve the clinical skills teaching of the teachers. So methodology in our institution, faculty induction program was conducted regularly. In that, AST has been incorporated as an important tool to evaluate and improve the clinical teaching skills of the teachers using multiple source feedback. There were 30 participants who are freshly newly joined young faculties, along with 22 observers and 33 students. The participants were given the adequate exposure to clinical skill teachings regarding how to prepare lesson plans and the principles of the skills teaching process. So 11 OST stations were arranged by the organizers based on clinical competencies like physical examination, procedural and communication skills. And the skills were selected by the participants themselves based on their field of interest. The stations were arranged are station 1 blood grouping and typing, station 2 is informed concerns, and station 3 CPR cardiopulmonary resuscitation, gram staining and handling of the microscope, intramuscular injection station, neonatal resuscitation, blood pressure recording, deep tendon reflex knee jerk, urinary catheterization and PV examinations. So the faculties were given a time limit of 15 minutes for each OST station. 3 students and 2 observers were allotted for each station. The process of teaching by the faculty was observed and assessed by the students, peers and observers present in the respective stations, apart from the self-assessment using a standardized format. That is Stanford Faculty Development Program. At the end of the station, individual and group feedback was also provided by all present in that station. This is the format which we use to assess the teaching report of the faculties. So to start with, introduce self and greets the patient and explains the learning objectives of the session and explains the relevance of this clinical skill and demonstrates the complete skill at the beginning. Then it teaches in the stepwise manner while vocalizing the process and the purpose of the teaching the skill, asks the students to perform and makes the student to perform individually, provides feedback and steps done well, constructive feedback and specific suggestions for the student to improve on it. This is the format we used for analyzing the study. The results. In our study, we also got the qualitative feedback using Google feedback form. In that, we received like 93.5% of faculty found the session to be useful and met its learning objectives. They also opined that multi-source feedback helped them to gain valuable insights into their clinical teaching skills. And we also done an intra-class correlation coefficient analysis which revealed there was a strong reliability, that is ICC of more than 0.5 within the station among the scores obtained from the students, peers and observers and self. So it signifies the reliability of the testing tool. Except for the 2 stations like blood grouping and gram staining, there was some difference in correlating, that means in the scores of peers and observers, which states that the teachers needs to get adequate training in that particular clinical skills. A small note on ICC, when the value is of less than 0.5, there is poor reliability. When the value is of 0.5 to 0.75, moderate reliability of the tool which we used, and 0.75 to 0.9, good reliability. Above 0.9, it is an excellent reliability of the tool which we used for the analysis of clinical skill teaching. So this is the value except for station 1 and 4, which is blood grouping and typing, gram staining. All other had a good correlation, making the sense of the tool we used is very good and reliable.
So coming to the discussion, objective structured teaching examinations have risen as a promising and reliable intervention for assessing the act of teaching. So in Francoeur et al., it is concluded that it was also important to incorporate OSTs for evaluating teaching skills. Wamsley et al. Stated that OSTs were means of assessing the teaching skills of teachers in a rapid manner and in a realistic atmosphere. So with immediate feedbacks, and there are optimal benefits were there. In Catherine et al. Also, the similar study was done with 46 faculties, and pre and post test was taken, saying that the faculties feeling that OST was an experience and they had an improvement in their teaching skills. Similarly, there are Jeremy et al. Also significant role in improving participants in the attitude of view of teaching the skills. Stone et al. And McHenry et al. And Trowbridge et al. Also stating that potential application in assessment and promotion of clinical teaching using OST is an important thing. Studies, there are initially studies using OSTs were started, and then it has been used in simulated activities to develop and assess the teaching skills have evolved over years. So in conclusion, the results and our experience suggest that OST with multi-source feedback can be used as a reliable and valid tool to improve the clinical teaching skills of young faculty members. Attention to detail and documentation of the process will help the scalability of the formative assessment total across different institutions. Thank you. These are my references.
Now it's open to the chairpersons for the interaction.
How did you use you said that you use 360-degree evaluation and involving other people also. How
Yes,
did
sir.
you use that? I mean, you have not mentioned it in the other, you have spoken about it, but in the research criteria, you have not it.
Sir, we routinely used to have this faculty induction program for the newly joined faculties. So we have planned, like we got the consent of the people, also participants. We planned, like with the standard format, we will evaluate the thing so that the standard format can be used for the further to improve the analysis and improve the teaching skills of the teachers. So
Sometimes the checklist approach creates problems, and because many things are very subjective. How did you assess those?
sir, here we are more concerned about the process of teaching, sir, rather than the not like ASCII, sir. We were very concentrating on how the process is being conducted. So we use the common steps, sir, instead of going for particular skill-based things. Sir.
Okay.
Just one comment. The outcome of teaching is student learning.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, process is one thing. So, did you find, or did your study look at also what are the things you could not achieve with an OSTI? OSTI, I mean, we should not go back thinking OSTI is the method for assessing clinical teaching skills. So, did your study also look into that aspect? What are its deficiencies, or what does not address?
OSTI, ma'am.
Yes. Did you look at that with your questionnaire and?
Yes, the individual skills, overall process only we can be achieved with that. The individual skill-based things can be achieved with the ASCII better than this teaching things. That was, I feel, as a deficient.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The newly recruited faculty, what was their age group generally? They were young, middle-aged or older?
Young, ma'am, 30 to 40 years.
Okay, all of them?
Yes, ma'am.
All
yes,
of them.
ma'am. We
Okay.
routinely do it, ma'am. For anybody, young faculties, we will routinely do
Okay,
it.
I wish you had checked that, because we have various generations of faculty working in an institution, even the
Yes.
newly joined faculty. So we have from baby boomers to Generation Z, Zoomers, and their ability to pick skills and their attitude towards picking new skills is different. So next time I feel you should look at the age group also that you're
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
doing.
sure.
But I quite like the idea of OSTI.
Yes.
It's an innovative method. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. As we all know, iCON also addresses the student's perspective. The next participant for today is a fourth-year UG student, Mr. Srish Rao from Seth GS Medical College in KEM Hospital, Mumbai. Kindly give your time starts now.
Good evening, everyone. I am indeed grateful to have this opportunity to present the working model and evaluation of our college's research council, Aspire. So, as we know, medical curriculum lacks practical aspects of research, especially from a point of view of an undergraduate student, which makes research a completely extracurricular activity, and a student has to learn everything right from the scratch beyond his own academic hectic schedule. On this background, Association for Support and Propagation of Innovation, Research and Education, Aspire, was established to provide peer-based mentorship and maximize research opportunities. Its self-evaluation was necessary to build a competent department that has a long-lasting impact and build a sound model that even other medical institutions can adopt. So we conducted our study with an objective to assess the change in research knowledge, attitudes, motivation and practices in terms of research projects brought about by the activities conducted by Aspire, for which we undertook a prospective interventional study starting from February 2021 for a period of 2 years, in which first MBBS students of batch 2020 were invited to participate. A sample size of approximately 100 was calculated. However, considering a non-participant and a dropout rate, complete batch of 250 was included into the study. This was the process of participant recruitment. At the start, 113 participants consented to participate. Informed consent and pre-test knowledge testing was done, and throughout 1 year, pre-post knowledge testing for each module was also conducted by taking feedbacks as well. At the end of 1 year, attitude, motivation and skill development assessment as well as post-test knowledge was done. At the end of second year, research practices and projects were evaluated. At the end, 92 students were included in the study who completed the questionnaire. These were the questionnaires which were included. So the knowledge test was MCQ based objective test, whereas attitude, motivation and skill development were subjective Likert scales in the form of retro pre-assessment. The practices and project questionnaires included Likert scale as well as open-ended questionnaires to assess the number of projects undertaken as well. We also evaluated the extent of involvement of each student in each project. So descriptive statistical analysis as well as pre-post statistical analysis using Wilcoxon-Steinrach was done at a significance level of 0.05. So to conduct the interventions, a team of students under the guidance of senior faculty was formed to implement interventions like peer-based teaching, journal clubs, research database, peer mentorship, exhaustive learning resource and social media discussion forums like National Research Forum and Spectrum. So in terms of peer-based teaching, we adopted a model in which the topics of research were divided into modules throughout the year, and these were taught by peers themselves, like experienced students or senior students, and these were like brief discussion based sessions and not exhaustive. Exhaustive learning resources were provided at the end of session so that students can read or study them in detail at their own time, and recordings of these sessions were also available for the students. In the same lines, post the teaching sessions, journal clubs were conducted based on specific learning objectives which are aligned to the peer-based discussions, and throughout the course of paper selection, a senior student mentored the student who used to present the club. It used to start from literature search, then aligning it with the specific learning objective, then critically appraising the paper and presenting in front of faculty members. This not only enhanced the literature searching skills but also imbibed critical evaluation and evidence-based medicine in students. Our most novel intervention was research opportunities database, in which a live dashboard of all ongoing research projects in the college were created and vacancies therein, in which students could choose which projects they want to apply, and faculty members could recruit the students as co-investigators therein. So also innovative competitions like a research-based quiz, protocol presentation competition as well as evidence-based debates were created to encourage more students to participate in research. So at the end of 1 year, we found a significant increase in knowledge as well as significant increase in knowledge scores of each module was also observed. Significant increase in attitude was observed, specifically in terms of students feeling there is a good scope of research as a career, good scope of research and implementation of research into UG curriculum, and students especially feeling that research is not only for academic excellence students but for everyone and anyone. Then in terms of motivation, students developed a motivation to do research in terms of impacting the world by contributing to its knowledge, exploring their skills beyond academics, and also building a strong strong resume. In terms of perceived skills, there was almost a doubling of the scores at the end of 1 year, and students perceived the improvement in skills in all the domains of research, including research ideation, data entry, statistical analysis, manuscript writing, as well as importantly the soft skills like leadership, critical thinking, time management, organizing, and working in a team. So these were the number of projects and the students that were there for the past 5 years. And since the start of our evaluation, there have been 44 research projects undertaken by a single batch in which 28 students have participated in research, the median being 2 projects per student and maximum being 11 projects per student. The extent of involvement was mainly in literature searching, data collection, data entry, but it was also good enough in deciding the methodology and the overall design of the project. So there have been 12 conference presentation, 4 publication and 2 best paper awards produced from this batch of students who are just in their second year. So the strengths of our study was relatable interventions, long 1 year evaluation, objective assessment. However, a few limitations could be we could not assess the quality of research which has been done, and a few of the assessment has been through a subjective assessment from the students. I would like to conclude by stating that peer-based interventions can improve knowledge attitude practices if the interventions are made peer-based, easily accessible and enjoyable mainly for the students. Our Murky model can act as a template for other colleges to run, and already 5 more colleges have adopted our model in their colleges already. So these are my acknowledgements for whom I am very thankful for their support, and especially my whole team of Aspire who has been there during this intervention. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shirish. Now it's over to the chairpersons for the introduction.
I would like to appreciate you and all the students who have, in the first year, have managed to do this research work. How long, what was the period of time that this research is taken up?
So ma'am, this is being, so the 2 years actually have not been completed. This was started, evaluation was started in February 2021. But since we are anticipating our university exams in Jan-Feb, the students would anyways not be doing any research for the next 1 month. So we completed our evaluation this month itself, and I am presenting the analysis right now.
No, you have published papers, right? So I'm asking, like all the students who have already published papers, for how long do they take up this research project in a 1 year, course? I really appreciate they have gone beyond the time of their study and done the research. So I just want to know how long
Okay,
they
ma'am.
take.
So out of 44 projects, only 4 publications have been there till now. So most of the projects are still ongoing. Few of the publications, as far as I know, are actually case reports or review articles. So the studies actually take more than 1 or 1.5 years to get completed. And most of the students have initiated their projects after the 1 year. Like the first year was mainly to build their competency and their attitude towards research, and the second year, once they felt confident of their skills, they have initiated the projects. So most of the projects have been initiated in 2022 in their second year, and most of them are ongoing, like in the phase of data collection or analysis.
And it is done during the study period, this college time or after hours?
Both, ma'am. Like I will tell you what kind of studies are mostly undertaken. So most of them undertake questionnaire-based studies or even clinical studies in sense laboratory profiles like correlation of vitamin D profiles, something, or questionnaire like knowledge attitude practices or help-seeking behaviors, or those kind of studies. So those can be done either by online questionnaire methods or even through OPD patient methods. So they do it like after college hours, or like when there is when lectures may be cancelled, or when there are like Saturdays, half days are there. So they take out time from their schedule and then they do it.
Thank you.
You are so young. How do you do, somebody must be helping you with literature search and other statistical.
Sir, to be honest, this whole project was conceptualized, collected, like designed and analyzed by me and my peers. Like most of it has been done by students. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shirish. You didn't sound like a student. Right. Congrats. Right, next we will call upon Dr. Mohanupriya, Professor, Department of General Surgery, Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research. Madam will be presenting a paper on novel, cost-effective, indigenous model for training medical students in.
Good afternoon, I am Dr. Mohanupriya from Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research. My study was on novel, cost-effective, indigenous model for training medical students in surgical skills in hydrocele. Why was this study basically and what is the importance? You know, the present Indian medical graduate has to be competent enough to deliver the dynamic health care But the challenge is you have more number of students, almost 250 students in most of the colleges, with less number of real patients who are ready to get examined, who give consent for examination. So having hands-on training and repeated practice becomes difficult for the students. And the NMC also has emphasized on use of simulation models and skills labs in our current competency-based medical education. Basically because these models gives a safe environment for the students to have repeated practice. So this makes it clear that simulation models are the need for the hour to train the Indian medical graduate. Once these models are ready, they can serve as a prototype and it can also be easily replicated by others so that you can use both in teaching and assessing these students. But I am basically from the Department of Surgery, so many of the common surgical cases, we don't have simulation models, both for clinical examination and for surgical practice. So we decided to choose the current 6-step education approach to design, develop, validate a novel, indigenous, cost-effective simulation model for hydrocele for teaching the basic surgical skills in it for the students. So the problem identified, as already discussed, is that you don't have lots of simulation models, especially low-cost ones. Whatever you have is basically high-tech ones, and having hands-on practice and repeated practice on patients becoming difficult day to day, because you have a bunch of 70 students coming to clinical posting and hardly 5 to 7 are allowed to, patient allows them to get examined. So the need is that we have to develop more such models to enhance the student's skill, and the National Medical Commission also recommends the usage of these models in training the students. So with the objective to design, develop, validate indigenous cost-effective simulation model for surgical skills training in hydrocele, we went on with the educational strategies of developing this model, which was then validated by experts' opinion. We implemented it by training undergraduate students and interns. Basically, undergraduate students were trained on the clinical examination of hydrocele and interns were trained on the surgical procedure of hydrocele. This was evaluated by assessing the students' performance on these models using the structure skill assessment tool which we had developed and validated. Later, the students' feedback was also obtained. Now, after getting the necessary permission and the institutional ethics committee thing, we developed the model. This is the basic raw materials used for developing models, as basic as a balloon, woolen threads, the plastic polythene paper from a wood, foot wrapper, socks and gloves. If you take, the cost will be less than 30 to prepare single model, the time taken will be less than 10 minutes if you have just one person to help you out. On getting the opinion from surgical experts, they felt it was close to reality, and especially when you use it as a hybrid model, either by using it along with a mannequin or along with a standardized patient for history, they rated it if it can be around 3 to 4 for a score of 5. This is for basically for undergraduate students, and this is just to show the thing with an actual patient with an hydrocele and the model. And methodology, we have routine thing was taken as a video presentation with PowerPoint 1, where history taking all was taught by the student, by the facilitator to the students for one batch of students, which was followed with, which had a pre-test and a post-test, followed with OSCE after 2 weeks, where the students are supposed to demonstrate the clinical skills using the, and to assess using the structural surgical skills assessment. And in the simulation model, the presentation was history taking on a standardized patient, followed with clinical demonstration on the model, and the patient had a post-it on the knowledge pack. Then they had given the feedback about the model, followed with OSCE after 2 weeks. This is to show the transillumination in the model, and the other one is transillumination in the real actual patient with hydrocele. This is the video, I hope it plays. Yeah. This is to show fluctuation on the developed model. The next one is to get above the swelling. The transillumination, fluctuation, get above the swelling are the pathognomonic findings which are specific for hydrocele, which the student should know to demonstrate. And this is for the hydrocele. Among interns, there were 20 interns who was trained. One group was by traditional video demonstration with an explanation by the surgeon, the facilitator. The other group had watched the clinical, the surgical demonstration on the model, and after 2 weeks they had assessment. This was basically on the assessment was on the model. So this is basically to show photos on a real patient, the surgery on a real patient which is done by surgeons, and this is the surgery done on the model skin incision. The sac is being dissected, it's been opened. You can see the cord structures over here. The white one is the vas, the pink, red ones are the artery, blue ones are the veins, and the yellow one is the lymphatics. The fluid is being drained, it's placed inside and it's been closed. The next one is the video. Yeah, the short video. The skin was incised, the dart is incised, the hydrocele sac is being dissected and it's being delivered out. Then it's incised. There's a little moulage here to show bleeding. It's being incised. The hydrocele fluid is being let out. The student has inspected. Then the sac is being closed, placed inside, and it's been sutured. Skin is being sutured. Now to show on the results, actually it has 46 points for UG students on clinical examination. This shows that there is a significant improvement in the students' performance when they were demonstrated in the simulation model. And for the procedural skill, there were 25 points. Each point, there was subdivision on each points also. This also shows that the significant improvement in the students' performance skill acquisition when it was demonstrated using the simulation model. And on the feedback, almost all the students agreed that it was close to realistic, the visual aspect, the pathognomonic aspect in clinical examination, their experience was good and their confidence improved. And for the procedure also, the almost was the same. And the students rated it 4 to 5 for a rate of 5. Hence, this model can be used basically, it can address both teaching both surgical, procedural and technical skills for a student. You can assess them also, you can also use them in complex team training scenarios. It is simple to produce, low cost, easily reproducible, and outcome is further we can produce several conditions and it is both for teaching and assessing students. My references, acknowledgement, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now it's over to the chairpersons for the interaction.
Congratulations,
Thank you,
Dr. Mohanapriya. This is we need more low-cost models like this for training, especially undergraduate. So that's a very innovative idea. There was one thing where I was a little confused. You showed comparison of two methods, and you said the one using the model had better results in the assessment.
Yeah.
So what exactly did you compare?
Traditional model is not patients, it's basically video demonstration, PowerPoints which has videos of all the clinical signs.
But that's not how we routinely teach hydrocele examination.
We use patients, ma'am, but patients are the gold standard. So this to show that when you don't have a patient, what is the best alternative method you can use.
Okay. Was that the objective of your study, in the absence of patients, to use simulation models?
Objective is to develop, basically not to replace patients, to enhance the use of skill models in teaching the psychomotor skills.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other possibilities other than hydrocele?
Yes, sir. Actually, this started with developing a model for abscess, because in the CBME, abscess is a certifiable skill for surgical interns. So then we moved on with subcutaneous swelling, where we developed models for demonstrating lipoma, sebaceous cyst, dermoid cyst, neurofibroma. Then for breast clinical examination, where you check the mobility with axial node, because we have models where you cannot check mobility in axial node. The fourth one was the hydrocele.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we call upon Dr. Manju, Professor and HOD, Department of Biochemistry, Arpadai Medical College and Hospital. Madam will be presenting a paper on Students' Perception on Authentic Learning, a thematic analysis. Ma'am, your time starts now.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. The topic for today is Students' Perception on a thematic analysis. So, authentic learning is the buzzword in health professionals education today. The most important benefit being, we know that it's a type of learning that prepares the students to face the real world problems more effectively than the so-called classroom based traditional learning. And around the world, the HPE systems, they are all shifting, or some of the colleges have even shifted to outcome based education pattern to meet mainly the societal needs, as well as to make the education applicable to the real world complex problems. However, the need and the relevance of this term, authentic learning, has to percolate to the most important stakeholders, that is the students, for them to take the ownership of their own learning. So we attempted to find, this was our aim, to find out from the health professional education students, what does this term authentic learning mean to them? So our methodology, actually what we did was that previous year in 2021, we conducted iCON 2021, the national conference, where we conducted an essay contest and we invited essays from students who belong to medical colleges, dental colleges and paramedical sciences, and we got, on the topic students' perception on authentic learning, and all these essays were screened before we sent it to the judges. Even using a software, we even did a plagiarism check too, keeping less than 20% as the point. And if all these, the screened essays were evaluated by the judges on the set of criteria sent to them, and thematic analysis was done by 3 of our researchers from our MEU unit. And the consent for this publication as well as the analysis was taken from all the participants using a Google form too. So this was the marking rubrics that we used, whether the essays address the prompt, focus on the topic, organization and structure, whether it is original, evidence of any metacognition and personal reflections are there in the essay, language quality, the clarity and coherence. Now coming to the results, totally we received 64 essays from all these 3 medical colleges, dental colleges and paramedical, from various colleges of 16 states of India and 2 from foreign, 1 from Mauritius and from Saudi Arabia. After we did all the selection criteria and this thing, total number of eligible essays were only 23. So now how we did was the 3, we identified all the 3 researchers independently. We took time, we got familiarized with the data for some time. Then we started identifying the concepts in the essays and we started highlighting them individually. Then these concepts were again mapped into themes. So usually we asked them to write the essays on 3 concepts. They were, what do you mean? Meaning of authentic learning, what is the relevance of authentic learning, and what are their expectations from authentic learning. So finally after all the concepts we got it, we have mapped into these 3 things. Under the meaning we got 3 themes: critical thinking, creativity, communication and collaboration. And under relevance we were able to derive 3 themes: societal needs, student-centeredness and scientific approach. And the expectations thing, we got 3 themes: teaching content. They had lots to speak about teaching content and TL process actually. And technology integration was the word which they used in everywhere. All the essays were. Next coming to, this is just to tell how we went on. That was the result, final result. This was the wordings that they used and the concepts that we got it. Mainly if you can see the learning with thinking and reasoning, the bridge connecting the science and art of medicine. They are telling that what we teach has to be connected to the real life problems. Then metacognition HOTS, these were the words they used. Transition to 21st century learning. When it comes to the creativity, the concepts they used were novel ideas as well as the thinking out of the box. These were the 2 important things. Coming to the 3rd theme, collaborations, communication, teamwork, leadership qualities. Then they were prioritizing the process more than the content of the teaching thing. Training on finances and cost of care and management principles too. Now coming to the second part, the relevance. They were equating authenticity with the word quality actually, and they want social accountability, and they want to bridge this. Authentic learning should be something that can bridge the theory practice gap. Coming to students' perspectives, they were telling that they should have whatever we teach, the learning should be something to motivate them to discover new things. Human values has to be given importance. They should meet the students' learning needs, and it should definitely enhance creativity. The 3rd one was critical thinking and prioritize the process over the content. Now coming to the 3rd part, you can see better use of technology, collaborative learning, simulation-based learning, PBL, and they wanted more doctor-patient interactions, and virtual internships and job shadowing also are suggested by them. So This is the third one, how to technology integration. They have asked for virtual labs, use of artificial intelligence, online discussion boards, computer assisted learning. Even though LMS is there all over the colleges, they are asking to integrate something more in LMS. Reflections using e-portfolios are also, they find helpful. So, all the results, if I put in summary, they will actually, we have some independent areas and some common areas which came under meaning, expectation and relevance, scientific approach to learning, critical thinking and making connections, and teaching content was something that was the common areas among all these three aspects, and individual things were communication, collaboration, creativity, student-centeredness, societal needs and TL process. The main thing what we found was that whatever any essay, there was not a single essay which ended without using the word integrating technology. So I would like to conclude that students really understand the need and the relevance of authentic learning. They expect the relevance of the content to the real world, student-centeredness in the process, and mainly they want it to be integrate it to technology in learning process. So I think it's a prime duty as a faculty to plan to ensure the felt needs of the students is addressed in the CBME so that it is taken care in the true spirits. We all are doing CBME, I know, but to take it in the true spirits with which it was intended. So these are the references, and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Over to the chairpersons for the interaction.
You said three of you were analyzing
Yes,
the transcript.
Yes.
So how did you come to a consensus? Did you put everything that all
Together,
three
yes,
of
ma'am.
you identified, or you discuss the themes and the categories that you identified and then...
No, ma'am. First, we put our concepts in an Excel sheet, each one of us, independently. Then we came in and compiled it in a single Excel sheet as 3 columns. We all three of us sat together, then decided, and then we derived the themes, ma'am. Themes were derived combinedly, but the concepts were, the number of times they repeated the number, and the concepts individually we have segregated it, madam. Finally, but the themes were derived together by all three of us together.
Okay. And this essay that they had to write.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you give them an idea of what authentic learning actually means?
Yes,
or they had to search?
No, they had to. We didn't give them. We only gave them the matrix of what and all things has to be taken care of when you are writing these essays. That we have sent to all the students, ma'am.
So they did a literature search and...
Yes. But plagiarism check was, they would have read it and they would have written.
What I'm trying to ask is, was this their perception or what literature says?
We have asked them to write in, they might have read, definitely they will read, ma'am, but they would have put it, they have put it in their own words. That's why from 64 only 23 were selected, ma'am. We took actually more than 1 week to familiarize the essays, each one of us. So whatever we felt that is their own language and what they feel from the language also, we selected them, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Very good evening to all judges and the audience present here. So today's my topic of presentation is innovative AdCom session on healthcare as a right and experience at PIMS Puducherry. So we all know AdCom module is part of CBME curriculum. Attitude, ethics and communication. Attitude, changing one's attitude is a fundamental principle and that changes one's behavior. That is the motto of AdCom sessions basically. So when this is integrated into the UG curriculum, it enriches the quality and the content of medical education. So this model, we have chosen the AdCom model, module 2.3, which in the Department of Community Medicine developed a teaching module to tell them how healthcare as a right is a basic principle. So assessment of this module was done based on real world simulations and not based on theoretical examination or formative assessments. So this model is based on the topics dealt with the community medicine subject per se, the concept of health and disease and healthcare of the community. So our aim of this session was to innovatively introduce the healthcare systems in India and other developed nations, access and equity, impact of socio-economic situations in determining the healthcare access, the role of doctors as a key players in the healthcare system, and to find out the missing links in the healthcare system to the students in the AdCom module 2.3 session. So our objective is to introduce the healthcare systems, the healthcare rights, the socio-economic implications on healthcare as a right, the missing links and the implications on it. So faculties from and PGs from the Department of Community Medicine involved a teaching module for this session for MBBS professional year 2 for the second MBBS students. It was a 2-hour session and we decided to conduct in a different way rather than from a didactic classes. Yes, what were the activities planned for them? We had a very brief note on what is the introduction of healthcare systems in India and that how it is different from the developed nations. Second thing was a short documentary film was shown to them using AV8, and this shows what is the inequitable distribution of healthcare system in our country as well as the developed nations. And the role play was done by the postgraduate students themselves. It is a learning experience for them as well as a teaching experience for the students also. They depicted the disparities at the different healthcare levels, the professional misconduct, the inequities in the patient care. All these were depicted as a part of role play in their session. Then soon after the role play, there were group discussions done among the undergraduate students, and they are supposed to do it, they have to find out the pros and cons of what were depicted in the role play. So what are the positive things they found and what are the negative things they observed in the role play. And then they were allowed to give a reflective writing session, and the results of this reflective writing session is given as the results of the study. And in the end of the study, once after the reflecting writing is done, summarizing the session with the take-home message was done. Yes, what were the results? The questions were basically the open-ended questions so that we could get the qualitative answers from the students. And we had nearly 114 students present and we recorded all their responses. The questions were, what are the facilitating and hindering factors in the patients receiving health care from the health center? Second question was, what could be done to improve the patient care at different levels in the health center? At different levels, right from the point where first point of contact in a health center will be a receptionist or the health attender in a primary center, and next will be a nurse and the doctor. So at 3 different levels, how the healthcare system can be improved, and suggestions to improve a good doctor-patient communication. And the fourth one was, what are the qualities of a good doctor? So the 4 things were asked to the students in the reflective writing. The responses received from the students were, the facilitating factors in patients receiving health care is the availability of the trained doctors, availability of round-the-clock services, ambulance facilities, use of advanced technology, good patient care, and use of availability of health insurance scheme, affordability, accessibility, and availing government health schemes and programs. These are the necessary facilitating factors that one could help any patient to receive health care from a health center. So what are the hindering factors they observed? Is the disrespect to the patient shown from any level, either from the attender, from the nurse or the doctor or any person in the healthcare system. Poor care to the poor patient, disparity among the health based on the socio-economic status, professional misconduct, medical negligence, long waiting time and appointments which disappoints the patient, and lack of awareness of services available, and high health expenditures which the patient have to spend out of pocket, transportation barriers and non-availability of doctors at times, and even sometimes receiving reimbursements for the money they spent on healthcare. And so, these are the suggestions given by the students to improve patient care at different level. One at the receptionist level, at the nurse level, and the doctor level. So at the receptionist level, they expect them to be punctual, polite, and have a good communication skill because they are the first person who are receiving the patients. And at the nurse level, they want them to be dedicated, follow the doctor's orders sincerely, have a good control over the inventory, and avoid use of mobile phones and just directly talk to the patients. And at doctor levels, they should be more approachable, polite, they should be able to listen to their complaints and have good skills and knowledge. And these are the good and poor doctor-patient communication skills which the students think a doctor should have. So one interesting answer in this was the last point. So far all the points said doctor should greet the patient, should have a good rapport. But one student had written the patient should be honest and address the doctor appropriately. So that was one interesting answer we received from the patient's perspective for a good doctor-patient communication. And these are the points which we received for a poor doctor-patient communication. Poor listening, interrupting the conversations, and disrupting and losing temper. So these are the qualities of a good doctor from the student's perspective. Should have good communication skill, leadership qualities, motive to serve the society, should be a good teacher, responsible, empathetic to patients, and updated to the recent advances. Moving on to my discussion points, in the study we found empathy as one good doctor should have. And similarly, in a study done by Hurwitz et al., said empathy is the most frequently quoted response which a doctor should have when conducted among undergraduate students. Similarly, poor listening is a don'ts among a good doctor-patient communication skill, and a similar point was discussed in another study by Miyota et al. And in the study, students expressed there is a need for good communication skill to develop a good rapport, and same thing was discussed in another study as well. To conclude, this study showed the evidence that we found out all these other hindering factors and the facilitating factors, and this study gives more evidence and stronger cause in changing the attitude, ethics and behavior to acquire the communication skill rather than emphasizing just on gaining knowledge and developing focus skills. Thank you. These are my references.
Thank you, madam. It's over to the chairpersons for the interaction.
How do you measure empathy?
Sir, pardon, sir?
How do you measure empathy?
We cannot measure empathy. It's just a perception which the students think, yes, a doctor should have as a quality.
You have come up with this conclusion, but how do you know?
It's a qualitative response which the students said on their perception that, yes, it is required. And we haven't devised anything to measure empathy per se. Quality. Okay, sir.
It means writing. Your methodology, you said it's reflective writing questionnaire. So you have given cues. You have not allowed the student to reflect by themselves. Do you still call it as reflective writing?
The ATCOM module per se is to facilitate in more of understanding and learning rather than formative assessments. So I think it works well with reflective writing rather than not leading questions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. The next presenter is Dr. Soundarya, Professor, Department of Physiology, Sri Manakala Vinayagar Medical College and Hospital, Puducherry. Madam will be presenting a topic on learning skills of the first year medical undergraduates. Your time starts now.
So, good evening everyone. So, I am here to present a proposal or a project on learning to learn, a workshop based approach for enhancing the learning skills of the first year medical undergraduates. So, what was the background of this study? So, our research question was, are we in the right track? At one end, the regulatory body has implemented CBME, and the teachers are in the process of upskilling themselves to implement the active learning strategies. But on the other hand, the literature search reveals that majority of our medical students still remain as surface learners, and as the professional year they advance, there is a decline in the textbook reading habit of our medical students. So, this doesn't mean that our medical students are lacking the learning skills. It reflects that they are not aware of the good strategies towards learning. So, and also we did a pilot study which revealed that 67% of our students expressed that they have not attended any kind of course in learning the learning skills. So, with this background, we had the objective to implement the workshop on learning skills module for our first year students and to evaluate the effectiveness of this workshop. So this study was organized by our medical education unit for our first year students. It was a mixed study, and the data collection tools were predominantly the self-administered questionnaires with Likert scale and open-ended questions, and all were validated questionnaires. So the main tool which we used was the Dennis-Congo Study Skills Inventory, which is a pre-validated questionnaire widely used across the globe. And as it was the first time we were planning to implement the learning skill module, we just concentrated on the first 3 components of the Dennis-Congo inventory: textbook reading skills, note-taking skills, and the memory skills. And in addition to that, it was slightly our innovation. We added the interpretation of illustrations and enhancing memory. So together, fixing all these 5 components, we planned a learning skill module which had the following components. So there was an ice-breaking session. I think it is not available. There was an ice-breaking session followed by a session on textbook reading, note taking, note making, followed by a session on interpreting illustrations and enhancing memory. And the students were divided into 25 students in small groups, and in rotation they were exposed to this module with 3 faculties as resource persons. I think there is a problem in the format. Morning it was opening up.
Kindly stop the timer.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, morning it was opening up, sir. I checked it out.
Stop the timer.
Or can I present just like that, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Okay. The images will be good to see, so maybe you can, sir, you can continue with the same.
Yeah, it's available. Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Restart the timer.
Yes, sir. Sorry for the inconvenience. So our first session was after the ice breaking. We had the textbook reading session where we projected a video clipping on the Harry Potter movie. We chose a small scene on Sorting Hat, and the students were then given a reading of the chapter on Sorting Hat taken from the novel Harry Potter. And then we had a group discussion. Students shared their experience. From the non-academic, we proceeded to academic, and then the students were exposed to the SQ3R strategy. And followed by this, the interpretation of illustrations. We proceeded from the interpreting of non-academic charts towards academic charts. And enhancing memory session was full of fun-filled games. And finally, we gave them tips how to enhance their memory. So this was the thing which we projected from the Harry Potter movie. And this was the group activity. And okay, so what we did was we assessed the students in different levels. So there was first was the level 1 Kirkpatrick's. So what we did was we got a feedback questionnaire was administered to the students, and in that there were some open-ended questions to get their reflection. And second, we did a retro pre-evaluation to know the confidence level in this textbook reading and other components of the learning skills module. Then after 8 months, we proceeded to the third level of the Kirkpatrick's, whether there is any improvement in the scores of Dennis Congo, and followed by we administered a feedback questionnaire. Now coming to the results, actually the sessions were rated very well. So the level 1 Kirkpatrick's was very well, it was very good response was received from the students. And the positive factors were that it was found entertaining, and the idea of Harry Potter clipping was very well appreciated by the students. And the suggestions for improvement was that they expected display of best presentations from other students during the workshop, and they expected more time to be allotted for the session on interpretation of illustrations. And we got a very good statistical significant improvement in the scores of retro pre-evaluation. But to our surprise, after the comparison of Dennis Congo study skill scores, after 8 months there was no improvement in the scores. So as a researcher, we were not successful in implementing the learning skill module, but as a designer of the program, which was though not statistically significant, I would like to happily say that 25% of the students in the respective things, they improved in their scores. And based on the feedback obtained from the participants, what was the major crux which we observed was students, what they said is initially we had interest, and as we proceeded there was some waning of interest, and they recommended more training on time management first, followed by these things, so that they could manage time effectively in applying these learning skill strategies. This was the main thing which was revealed by the students. So in this way we proceeded to the Kirkpatrick's third level on assessing the behavioral change of the participants. So this workshop based approach revealed a positive attitude from the students, and there is not much improvement in the Dennis Congo scores. Similar results were obtained from some other studies, but still a study by Nyland has revealed a positive behavioral change because there were more reinforcement sessions. So finally, what we would like to say that is the strengths of our study where it was a mixed study with unique entertaining framework of module, and we made an attempt to measure the behavioral change. We came up to the third level of Kirkpatrick's, and the limitation was time management was not included in the module, and there was lack of reinforcement sessions. And this is our way forward. We are planning to conduct a trend analysis across the different phases in the Dennis Congo scores, and we will definitely replan the session with incorporation of time management. So to conclude, this workshop-based approach is been well appreciated by the students, provided we include time management also as a part of the module with effective reinforcement. So these are my references, and I will acknowledge the ICON and my institute. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, madam. Now it's over to the chairpersons for the discussion.
You said it was a mixed method study. What
Yes,
was the qualitative component here?
Ma'am, the feedback questionnaire had some open-ended questions like what were the factors which are facilitating.
How did you analyze it?
Ma'am, it was done by a person who was trained in qualitative research using manual content analysis, and the categories were extracted, and with the maximum number of responses what we got, those categories we have represented here, ma'am, in the results.
Okay. So just one small, you can call it an opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
When you do an educational intervention, there are a lot of confounders which can interfere. So you
Yes,
cannot always ascribe a causal association between your intervention and your desired outcome. So your conclusion that the learning skill has come down is probably not appropriate here.
Maybe I don't say that it has come down, ma'am. I say.
What was your conclusion?
No, ma'am, it has not improved, ma'am. That should be the appropriate word. So why it is not improved? So we have to definitely work on it, because
that is because of the confounders.
Yes, ma'am. Maybe we have to look for the confounding factors, and we have to work appropriately.
Can we introduce some critical thinking skills?
Yes, sir. Actually, we had a session on interpreting illustrations. So in that also, the charts which we projected to the students were a little of critical thinking kind of charts, sir, that were shared during the group activity. Because I had to present everything in 7 minutes, I couldn't express all the components here. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now we'll move on to the next presenter, Dr. Gunaseelan, Assistant Professor, Department of Emergency Medicine, Arupattai Medical College and Hospital. Sir will be presenting his paper on matchmaking, a novel gamification-based instructional method in simulation for simulating multiple simultaneous resuscitation scenarios in emergency department. Your time starts now.
So, good evening, one and all present here. Before I start, a small disclaimer. This is not a formal research. This is innovation that we have done. We have not did a formal research. We just got a feedback from the participants who have participated in the simulation scenario. So let me start the presentation with the inspiration behind this gamification model. I'm sure you would have all known. So this idea came from the Super Mario. So imagine a scenario where I'm giving a set of instructions like this, and I'm asking the students, some 20 students, to memorize these instructions and follow the instructions on this keyboard. So how many attempts will it take for the students to memorize and follow the instructions and master the skill? It will take multiple attempts, and quite a few number of students will lose the interest at the third attempt or fourth attempt. Whereas if I change the name from test to game, and I rearrange the buttons, and I give some gimmicks and put up a game model, the intent to do repeated times till they master the thing will improve. So that is what this is what the background for our idea. So the innovation method or the simulation method that we used was, it was a multiple casualty scenario. So totally 6 patients presented to the emergency department. All the patients had some form of shock, be it a cardiogenic shock, a septic shock, an obstructive shock, a neurogenic shock, again an obstructive pulmonary embolism, and an anaphylactic shock. So what we did was, we divided this patient management into 5 different levels, and the students who are participating in the simulation will progress to each level only when they match the first level. Like what is matching, I will explain. So for example, in the level 1, they have to triage the patient, and they have to allocate the roles according to the expertise. Like for example, somebody who is expert in managing an airway will be allocated to the patient with anaphylactic shock, because there will be an airway edema, so he has to take care of that. So if the team leader and the team members were able to match all the patients to the level of expertise of the students, then they will proceed to the next level. Otherwise, the game stops there and the scenario goes into debriefing. Okay. So the level 2 is history and physical examination. Here the students have to do a primary survey, they have to obtain a focus history, and they have to match each patient to the appropriate system. That is, for example, if there is a neurogenic shock, they have to do a complete neurological assessment. If there is a cardiogenic shock, they have to do a cardiovascular system examination. So here the matching is the system examination to each patient. If they all succeed, they will proceed to the next level. If some of the team members fail to match some patients to the appropriate system, the game stops there, and that particular patient goes to debriefing, and the particular team member also goes to debriefing. Then the third level is point of care ultrasound. Using point of care ultrasound, especially rush protocol, to identify what type of shock the patient has. So we have a dedicated protocol to identify what type of shock the patient has using ultrasound. So here also we will give the ultrasound images prior hand. Like they have to perform the ultrasound, but we will show the pathological images either in the form of image or a video. And again they have to match the ultrasound images to the particular shock patient. If they successfully match, they proceed to the next level. Otherwise, they go to the debriefing. The next level will be to initiate treatment. Again, here for septic shock, they have to start fluids, they have to start antibiotics. For neurogenic shock, they have to start vasopressors. For hypovolemic shock, they have to find out the source, they have to replace the volume, and if needed, they have to take the patient to OT and all those things. So if they match the treatment options that are available to the correct patients, they proceed to the next level. Otherwise, they move on to debriefing. And finally, disposition. Again, where does the patient finally end up? Either to the OR or to the cath lab or to the ICU. So if they are able to match, the game stops there and everyone goes to debriefing. So this is how we did the simulation. We ran this simulation twice with 12 participants. Most of them were postgraduates in emergency medicine. And we got a informal feedback, like 9 out of 12 participants felt that it simulated a multiple casualty scenario. 11 out of 12 participants felt that the simulation exercise met the intended objective, and 10 out of 12 participants felt that the learning process was enjoyable. That is what the main idea behind this, to make the process more enjoyable and also simulate a multiple casualty scenario. There was one more thing that we also looked in, whether it was feasible to do such a large scale simulation, because we had 6 patients. So we need 6 standardized patients or mannequins. We need 6 trolleys. We need 6 all the equipments to manage airway, to manage the shock, all those things. 6 sets we needed. So whether it was feasible also was one more thing. So we used the broken items or the expired items, and we somehow tried and managed, and we ran this simulation twice in our department. So the strengths of this innovative simulation idea is that we can easily simulate multiple casualties, which is quite difficult to simulate in a simulation. And this can also be used to teach differentials for a single symptom. Like for example, chest pain. There are multiple differentials for chest pain, like MI, aortic dissection, pulmonary embolism, pneumothorax, all those things. That also we can be able to simulate using this gamification model. Again, the limitations were it needed extensive manpower and extensive resources, and it also needed extensive preparation, because we needed again 6 scripts for the simulation. So one script for each patients. So there was extensive preparation needed, and there was a lot of teamwork that was involved there. So because this was not a formal study, we were not able to conclude anything based on this. We just wanted to present the innovative idea that we came up. And so I'll conclude with this statement from Walt Disney, that I would rather entertain and hope that people learn, rather than I'll teach and hope that they were entertained. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Now it's over to the chairpersons.
Just to understand, what was the deficit in the existing learning situation which you addressed with this innovation?
Ma'am, mainly we did the simulation for the non-technical skills to understand.
What is the deficiency in the existing teaching learning method that you are employing, which you are addressing by introducing an innovation?
The existing teaching learning methodology for teaching a multiple casualty scenario is on the floor. Like when the patients came, you teach on the floor. But sometimes it may lead to harm to the patients. So we wanted to simulate a scenario and we wanted to improve the non-technical skills. Suddenly a group of patients comes to the emergency and how we can react and respond and what are the areas where we will have problems so that we can improve upon that.
Sample size is very small.
Yes, sir. We didn't do a formal research, sir. It's just an innovation that we came up. So we just ran the simulation and we just gotten feedback. So I thought we'll share this innovation with others.
You call it gamification, right? Why didn't you develop an app, just an observation? Instead of an app, you're using real-time mannequin or standardized patients, I guess. So why gamification?
Because again, this is a stressful environment. So if learners feel that we are playing a game, they tend to participate more actively, and they also there is more of learning that is happening rather than just telling that this is a simulation exercise where we are going to do this, and then the participation, there is a lack of participation also, and there is the learning process also, there is some hampering is there.
I appreciate your idea, innovative idea. I would also suggest that you have an app, as a preliminary thing before they go on to the simulation. I'm sure they would enjoy that much more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gunasalan. Indeed, thank you for that Mario music, which is quite nostalgic. The last but one presentation, Dr. Jayashri Anivasagan, Professor, Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Sri Manakala Vinayagar Medical College and Hospital. Madam will be presenting a paper on teamwork training for changing illness into wellness. Ma'am, your time starts now.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So the first one, the Tourist Human Building a Safer Health System, is the first paper which came out in 1999, which all of us know. The landmark paper which showed the magnitude of medical errors which happen in the healthcare delivery system. And to the underlying contributing factor in many of the preventable patient harm, like diagnostic errors or surgical errors or medication errors, is communication failure and failure of teamwork. So, healthcare delivery is inherently interdependent. No one can assure the patient that or protect the patient from the harm individually, that they can go out of this complex healthcare system. So, to come out, to educate the medical students, we need theory and practice of teams and teamwork. So, what is the need for this teamwork training in our hospital? The lot of disciplinary committee hearings which we hear when the new batch of interns comes, the conflicts between the staff nurse and the interns, not only the verbal conflicts between the members of the healthcare team and the surgery OT, but also sometimes even physical abuse also. And then the feedback which we got from the patients on the quality of healthcare, the delay in the discharge summary, or not able to understand what was written in the discharge summary, and the faculty feedback on the poor handing over between the residents and the interns. So, and not the least, even the Indian medical graduate attribute tells all the medical graduate has to be a leader and a member of a healthcare team. So, with all these in mind, our team, these are the stakeholders which we involved in preparing this module. All the administrators were pulled into our stakeholders team to get the permissions for the time allotment and everything. And this was our core team members from all the departments, and our student council members, both undergraduate and postgraduates. And we got based on that, we formed this outcome. So develop generalizable, transportable teamwork competencies that learners can apply across different settings and teams. So we thought the teamwork training, it cannot be a single time learning, it needs repetitive training. So we thought we should start it from the year 1 and up to the postgraduate orientation. We do know that we have to train our faculties also, but we are a little bit afraid in touching them. So we start with the postgraduate training. And we included this Team Steps curriculum because it was available on even the facilitative guidance it was available on the net, and we found it easier to adapt to it. So what we did on the foundation course, the students were divided into group of 25 and they come to us on every alternate Saturdays when they don't have the classes. So what we did was, we introduced what is the difference between a group and a team using activities, team exercise like paper chains, which was developed by the Team Steps, and also we found out many other activities like traffic zone and also crossing the hurdles, stacking those. So based on these activities, we taught them what is team, how do they feel as a part of the team, what did they contribute to the team, and what is the level of adjustment between them and how each member contributed. And not only the team, we also taught them about types of team in the healthcare and how they contribute, and also about the importance of team structure and barriers to the care team for effective care. And we also told them about the tips for effective communication, like active listening skills, questioning, using silence when it is needed, paraphrasing, and also we taught them about the gather technique for medical interviewing, because this will be useful for them in the early clinical exposure. And we also asked all the students to fill the readiness to interprofessional learning, so that we thought we will introduce interprofessional learning in the coming years. And what we did in phase 2, phase 3, because we did not have adequate time to incorporate the teamwork training. So all the students come to a simulation lab as a part of their curriculum. So some skills were taught to them, like in phase 2 we teach history and physical examination, and in phase 3 we taught about counseling and all those things. So we conducted a simulation competition at the end of the ward posting, which involved pulling up students from all the 3 phases, and we assess them as a team rather than an individual. And they also participated as a simulated patients, and during the debriefing, we asked them about how they felt as a patient and how did they observe the team who is taking care of them. So that is one indirect method of learning about team. And during intern orientation, we taught to them about strategies to accurately exchange information, ideal discharge planning, and strategies for situation monitoring and mutual support using the videos. These are the scenes where actually interns are made into, they come to us for theory, they teach, and then when they come to us in the department, we use interprofessional simulation scenarios for team training. And in postgraduate trainings, during orientation program, we teach them about team events like brief, huddle, and debrief, and also about all these strategies again. And then we conducted a multidisciplinary, we pulled students from different departments and made them into a team, and then they have to undergo a casualty scenario where our assessor is assessing based on the clinical teamwork skill, and the students also using a hybrid simulation, we assess the teamwork. And this is, we did it in the in-situ simulation like labor rooms and NICU and PICU. We assess the teams, the postgraduates and the nursing practitioners in those settings. So this is the picture showing what we did using dolls with the students in the orientation program. So the feedback, the level 1, everyone told that we should continue to offer opportunities to help professional students to work together. Level 2, there is significant improvement. Level 3, we use debriefing methods, not a content analysis or anything. And we have not yet measured the patient outcome per se. And implication is, by developing these teamwork skills, the students can communicate effectively and work collaboratively, and thereby improving the patient safety. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now it's over to the chairpersons for the discussion.
This workshops that you conducted and had, were they interprofessional teams? Like, did you have nursing students, medical students?
The workshops were conducted in silos only, ma'am, because we could not, in the curriculum time, we could not bring the students together. So they were, the workshops were conducted separately, but during the simulation scenarios, the students were brought together.
Did you use any scenarios inside the hospitals for team building? Although you told them about the team building process, did you do anything in the real world?
Yes, sir, that's in situ simulation for postgraduates, like on emergencies in the concerned departments, obstetric emergencies and pediatric NICU and PICU training. So all those things we conducted team building simulations. And for even undergraduates also, like neonatal resuscitation and all these obstetric drills, we conducted interprofessional simulation scenarios. And for postgraduates, even mass casualty scenario we used.
You mentioned about competencies of teamwork. What are the competencies?
These are actually the principles of team steps principle, but interprofessional collaboration, which we want, those competencies or roles and responsibilities, and interprofessional communication and collaboration, and much more. But we thought about more about the principles of team steps here. And even though we introduce all this interprofessional, Canadian interprofessional competencies, we included.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Last but not least, the last presentation for the day, Dr. C. Rajan Rushendra, Professor and Head of the Department of Community Medicine, Arupade Medical College and Hospital, Puducherry. Sir will be presenting on impact of community-based training program on knowledge, skill and attitude of undergraduate medical students in a teaching medical college of Tamil Nadu. So your time starts now.
Good evening, judges and other dignitaries of medical education in the conference hall. So before this presentation, I will just take some time, some minutes to tell about the impact of this study. The ever burning issue and still the burning issue is poor doctor-patient relationship, due to which violence on doctors take place, medical negligence, and the Medical Council of India, the then Medical Council of India, introduced new approaches, new teaching learning methods to improve the communication skills, induce ethics, good ethical practices and attitude. So Vision 2015, MCA 2015, and thereafter it was a community orientation program which was introduced to the in the induction program for the first year MBBS students. So now I go to the presentation. So the objective is to assess the impact of community-based structured training program on knowledge, skill, attitude of the undergraduate program students. So this was my instinct. When the government takes such steps, bold steps, so I have to take some instinct to see the impact. So the key words here, as I have mentioned, Vision 2015 Community Orientation Program, iCON, CBME, IMG, Bloom's Taxonomy, Fink's Taxonomy, etc. So the government of India, as I already told you, it wanted to train and produce competent physicians for first contact. The aim of the Vision 2000 vision was to standardize the output of the output of graduate medical education in the form of Indian medical graduates skilled, motivating the basic doctor. So the Vision 2015, the students should be able to explain the principles of sociology, that is the socio-demographic profile and the social elements, psychological factors, so observe and interpret the dynamics of community behavior, principles of and practice of medicine in hospital community settings. So this was MCA Vision 2015. The foundation course for the first MBA was 2 months with a period of 30 hours with 15 2-hour lecture classes. So 15 visits of 2 hours each where the community orientation program would be carried out. Justification, so first MPPS allotted community medicine based on vision 2015. So as I told you, certain taxonomies, medical education taxonomies does not imply or it is poorly represented by the affective zone. So where the empathy factor should be instilled to the students, especially the foundation course first year students. So they can remember, create it is a hierarchy, Miller's pyramid from novice to expert. But here in the Flink's taxonomy of significant learning, apart from the Bloom's taxonomy, we have the human dimensions, caring and learning, how to learn. So that will have an impact of the cognitive skills to include the specific that enables significant learning, extends beyond the end of course. It includes caring people skill called human dimensions, learning how to learn. Materials and methods, before and after intervention study, the first year graduates was done. The tool was semi-structured validated questionnaire based on the requirements of Vision 2015, and the study area was Karanam, Puducherry, village of Chengalpattu district, 2016 and consecutive year of 2017. Sample size was 231. Materials and methods, 231 students in subsequent batches of same medical college attending the community postings were included. All the students underwent the training program. Prior to the training, a pre-tested evaluation was executed with a structured questionnaire followed by a post-test evaluation of the community orientation program. Statistical methods, descriptive analysis, and the inferential statistics, since the variables were not normally distributed, it was decided to compare the medians and interquartile range across the groups. The statistical significance of the difference in medians and the distribution across the groups was assessed by appropriate non-parametric tests like Wilcoxon sign rank test. P-value less than 15 was considered statistically significant. So this was the area of the community orientation program, Karanam, Puducherry, Chengalpattu district. The results, the age of the student, father's income, mother's income. So the median age was 19 to 20 years of age, and the maximum father's income was 82,000, and the results were 50% gender distribution and the descriptive analysis, the education of households. So we had literacy, secondary and all those things factors, and the comparison tables, assessment of socioeconomic status, housing conditions, assessment of dietary intake, basic data entry into the Excel, basic data analysis, making simple graphs manually, interpreting the data of the community. So there was significant difference in p-value and the pre-test and post-test scores following the orientation program. Discussions, improvement in the skills to be compared with the pre-intervention skills, and interpreting data on making community diagnosis, addresses the affective domain, empathy factor, which was visionary of the Fink's taxonomy of significant learning. Discussions, as I told you, this is a follow-up of the family adoption program, which is now implemented 2022. Conclusions, so there was significant improvement in all the domains as per the affective and psychomotor domains. So the program of 2015 now applied is a new introduction of the family adoption program, which is a longitudinal structured program. References, thanking the community students and the audience.
Thank you very much, sir. Now it's over to the chairpersons for the discussion.
You said there was improvement in the cognitive domain also.
Yes, madam.
How did you assess that?
We give them training before the intervention when they exposed to the field regarding these domains, madam, the socio-demographic profile.
No, your assessment of cognitive domain, what was the tool you used?
Structured questionnaire, madam. Structured questionnaire, which represents all the socio-demographic profile, for example, then the environmental health and sanitation.
So was there some knowledge related
Yes, ma'am. Anthropometric and personal habits, maternal child health, and morbidity patterns, availability and utilization of healthcare services, then manpower, other resources in the village, then summary and other problems felt by the family.
So how big was this questionnaire? How many items were there?
All these things which I have read, madam.
So many items?
Yes, madam. Among this, some of the significant things which has been told in the results.
And how did you assess attitude?
Madam?
Attitude.
Attitude, their reflection, madam, after when they come and present. So we saw their, as we know that the cognition is the head, the psychomotor is the hand, and the affective is the heart. So all these three domains they're expressing, the students were expressing, because it was the new, their early exposure to the community. So it was assessed in, by the table presentations, their experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That ends the presentations. Now, all the presentations were very good and we enjoyed a lot. Now it's time to honor the presenters of the day. I request the honorable chairpersons to just hand over the certificates to the presenters of today. First, I call Dr. Annamalai, Medical Consultant, Department of Ophthalmology, Aravind High Hospital, to come and collect the certificate. The chairpersons, I request Deepthi Madam to hand over the certificate of participation. Dr. Priyanka Batkulkar. Priyanka Batkulkar, I request Dr. Sanjay Bedi sir to kindly hand over the certificate. Dr. Shanmugavalli, Associate Professor, Department of Anesthesiology, I request Dr. Sanjay Bedi sir to hand over. Shirish Rao, 4th year UG student, Mumbai. I request Dr. Kadambari Madam to hand over the certificate. Dr. T. Mohanapriya, Professor, Department of General Surgery, Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education. I request Dr. Deepthi Shastri Madam to hand over the certificate. Next, I call upon Dr. Manju, Professor and Head, Department of Biochemistry, AVMC. I request Dr. Kadambari Ma'am to hand over the certificate. Next, I call upon Dr. Sahana, Assistant Professor of Department of Community Medicine. She's not there. Dr. Saundarya, Professor, Department of Physiology, Manakula Vinayagar Medical College. I request Dr. Sanjay Bedi sir to hand over the certificate. I request Dr. Gunaseelan, Assistant Professor, Department of Emergency Medicine, Haripadu Medical College. I request Dr. Deepthi Ma'am to hand over the certificate. Next, I call upon Dr. Jayashri, Professor and Head, Department of OG, Sri Manakula Vinayagar Medical College. Dr. Kadambari Ma'am to hand over the certificate. Call upon Dr. Rajan Rushinder, Professor and Head, Department of Community Medicine, Haripadu Medical College. Dr. Sanjay Bedi sir to kindly hand over the certificate. Thank you very much. Now, as the chairperson is kindly hold on the stage, I request Dr. Vishnu Bhatt sir, our Director of Medical Research, to honor the chairperson. Chairpersons for today, Dr. Deepthi Shastri Ma'am, Deputy Dean, Professor of Anatomy, Vinayaka Missions, Krivandavarya Medical College Hospitals, Salem, Tamil Nadu. Dr. Sanjay Bedi, CEO, ME India. Dr. Deepthi Shastri, Shastri, Deputy Dean, Professor of Anatomy, Salem. Dr. Kadambari, Professor of Surgery, JIPMER. Madam will be receiving an award tomorrow during the panel discussion.
Now I request Dr. Vishnu Bhatt sir to honor a ICON team member Dr. Arun Daniel, who has helped us in conducting this award session in a very perfect way.
We'll give judges some time to compile the results and come up with the winners. We will announce it tomorrow morning during the plenary sessions, and the awards for the sessions, big cash prize, Dr. Sanjay Bedi only is sponsoring from MEO India. So they would be presented during the valedictory tomorrow afternoon, right? Hopefully we'll see you at that point of time also. Right, with that we'll conclude today's proceedings. We'll start sharply at 9 o'clock. Please don't forget to fill up the feedback forms and be here by 8:45 tomorrow morning. We have very interesting sessions. We have 3 plenaries and a panel discussion in the morning. And afternoon we have the free papers presentations as well as the quiz on CBME. It will be quite exciting. Thank you very much. Have a good stay in Puducherry. Bye.